The look on Jennifer's face when I opened my door is something I'll never forget. There she stood with 3 exhausted children, 6 suitcases, and the casual announcement that they'd sold their house and needed to move in with me. I blinked twice before responding, "What? My son didn't tell you?" "I changed all the locks yesterday, and he doesn't live here anymore." Her face drained of color instantly, but it was my next sentence that truly finished her off. The words that would forever change our family's course after years of pain, deception, and broken trust. My name is Fanny Miller. At 68 years old, I've spent most of my life in the classroom teaching third graders until retirement 5 years ago. The same year, I lost Harold, my husband of 42 years, to heart failure. Since then, I've lived alone in our modest 2-bedroom apartment in Springfield, trying to rebuild a life without the man who had been my rock through everything. Everything except our son Aaron's troubles. Those I faced mostly alone, even when Harold was alive. Aaron was our only child, born after 7 years of trying and 2 miscarriages. Perhaps we spoiled him. Perhaps we were too lenient when we should have been firm. Whatever mistakes we made, they don't fully explain the path Aaron chose. He wasn't always this way. As a boy, Aaron had such promise. Smart as a whip, with his father's easy laugh and my stubborn determination. Teachers praised his creativity. Coaches valued his team spirit. Girls noticed his kind blue eyes and dimpled smile. By all accounts, Aaron should have had a wonderful life ahead of him. Then came college, where Aaron discovered 2 things that would alter his path forever: gambling and Jennifer Davis. I remember the first time he brought her home during Thanksgiving break his sophomore year. Jennifer was undeniably beautiful with her perfect blonde hair, sparkling green eyes, and a smile that could charm anyone. Harold and I welcomed her warmly, delighted to see Aaron so happy. They'd met in Economics 101, Aaron explained, and had been inseparable for 2 months. "She's the one, Mom," he whispered to me while Jennifer chatted with Harold about her business major. "I'm going to marry her someday." I was thrilled. What mother doesn't dream of her son finding love? What I failed to see then were the subtle signs. How Jennifer's eyes lingered on our modest home with barely disguised disappointment. How she mentioned her father's lake house and her mother's jewelry collection a bit too frequently. How she seemed more interested in Aaron's potential future income than his character. Still, I chose to see the best. When they married 3 years later, I threw myself into planning the wedding Jennifer wanted. It was more extravagant than we could afford, but Harold took out a loan, saying, "You only get 1 son, Fanny. Let's make his day perfect." The next few years brought our 3 beautiful grandchildren, Max, then Lily, and finally little Emma. I fell in love with each of them instantly. Being a grandmother gave me a joy I hadn't anticipated, a second chance at the nurturing role I'd always cherished. Those early years when Aaron still had his accounting job at Peterson and Mills seemed promising. They bought a small house in the suburbs. Jennifer drove a reasonably nice car, and the children were always well-dressed and well-fed. The first real warning sign came when Aaron lost his job, but didn't tell Jennifer for almost 2 months. He confessed this to me one afternoon while dropping off Max for babysitting. "I've been pretending to go to work, Mom," he admitted, eyes downcast. "I just need time to find something better before I tell her. Jennifer has expectations." "But Aaron, marriages need honesty," I urged. "You're partners. You should face this together." He shook his head. "You don't understand. Jennifer married an up-and-comer, not a failure. I just need a loan for this month's mortgage payment. I'll pay you back as soon as I'm employed again." Against my better judgment, I wrote him a check from my teacher's pension. 1 month turned into 3, then 6. Aaron eventually found another job, but it paid less. The loans continued, with Harold growing increasingly concerned before his death. "We're enabling him," Harold would say, but neither of us knew how to stop. After Harold died, the requests increased. Aaron would visit more often, always alone, always with a new crisis requiring financial intervention. Jennifer called frequently about the children needing things: private school fees, orthodontia, summer camps. I wanted my grandchildren to have opportunities, so I continued helping, despite my dwindling savings. Then came the Tuesday morning I'll never forget. I was reviewing my quarterly retirement account statement when I noticed several unauthorized withdrawals. 10,000 here, 15,000 there. Nearly $80,000 in total, over 8 months. Money I had never touched. Money only one other person had access to. My son had been stealing from me. When confronted, Aaron broke down completely. Between sobs, he confessed everything. The gambling habit that started in college had spiraled out of control. He'd lost his second job 6 months earlier. Their house had 2 mortgages against it. Jennifer had no idea how bad things were, believing their financial struggles were temporary setbacks rather than the result of her husband's addiction. "I'll get help, Mom," he promised, clutching my hands so tightly they ached. "I swear I'll pay back every penny. Please don't tell Jennifer. She'll leave me, and I can't lose my family." I believed him. God help me. I believed my son one more time. The peace lasted exactly 17 days before everything fell apart again. Aaron did attend 2 Gamblers Anonymous meetings, but stopped going when a work opportunity required his full attention. The job never materialized. Meanwhile, Jennifer had discovered their delinquent mortgage notices and unleashed years of pent-up frustration. Their fights became legendary on their quiet suburban street. Neighbors called me more than once, concerned about the shouting. The children started showing signs of stress. Max became withdrawn. Lily developed nervous habits, and little Emma began having nightmares. Jennifer's solution was breathtakingly direct. I should cover their expenses until Aaron got back on his feet. "You've always helped before, Fanny," she said during an unexpected visit to my apartment, her voice dripping with calculated sweetness. "The children need stability. Surely you don't want your grandchildren to suffer?" That was the beginning of Jennifer's systematic campaign to use my grandchildren as leverage. When I provided grocery money, I was allowed to babysit. When I questioned where larger sums went, suddenly the children were too busy for their regular visits with Grandma. The manipulation was obvious, but effective. What grandmother could bear being separated from her beloved grandchildren? So I continued helping, though I established some boundaries. I would buy groceries directly rather than giving cash. I would pay for the children's needs specifically rather than handing Jennifer blank checks. "We're not charity cases," Jennifer snapped after I purchased school supplies instead of giving her money. "Aaron tells me you've got plenty saved, but you're getting stingy in your old age." The comment stung, not just for its cruelty but for what it revealed. Aaron was discussing my finances with her, likely inflating my modest resources to explain why I could and should give more. The real shock came 3 months later when Aaron showed up at my door at 11 at night with a duffel bag. "Jennifer and I need space," he explained, not meeting my eyes. "Just for a few weeks, Mom. Until things calm down." I let him in, of course. What mother wouldn't? I told myself having Aaron close would help him reform. I could monitor his behavior, encourage responsible habits, and help him rebuild his marriage. The spare bedroom became his temporary sanctuary. Only it wasn't temporary, and it certainly wasn't a path to reform. Aaron's behavior grew increasingly concerning. He slept until noon, then disappeared for hours without explanation. He brought home friends I'd never met. Loud men with shifty eyes who made me uncomfortable in my own home. He borrowed my car and returned it with empty gas tanks and mysterious dents. When I mentioned these problems, he dismissed them with vague apologies and empty promises to do better. My contact with Jennifer and the grandchildren dwindled to occasional phone calls and even rarer visits. Jennifer was clearly punishing both Aaron and me, though for different reasons. "You're enabling him," she accused during one heated phone conversation. "He needs to grow up and be a man, but you keep babying him." The irony that she'd previously encouraged my financial support wasn't lost on me, but Jennifer had never been troubled by inconsistency when it suited her purposes. 3 months into this arrangement, I returned home early from my book club to find Aaron rummaging through my medicine cabinet. When he emerged from the bathroom, his pupils were pinpoints, his speech slightly slurred. "What are you looking for?" I asked, though I already suspected. "Just some aspirin, Mom. Headache." He tried to brush past me. I blocked his path. "Empty your pockets, Aaron." "What? I'm not 10 years old." "Empty them now, or I'm calling the police." I'd never spoken to my son that way before. The shock alone must have compelled him to comply. From his jacket, he produced an orange prescription bottle, with the label partly scratched off. Inside were pills I recognized as the powerful painkillers prescribed after Harold's surgery years ago. Pills that should have been disposed of long ago. "You're using drugs? In my home?" My voice trembled with anger and disbelief. "It's not what you think," Aaron insisted, though we both knew it was exactly what I thought. "I have chronic pain. The doctors won't prescribe what I need." "You need help, Aaron. Professional help. This stops now." He promised it would. Another empty pledge in a long string of broken vows. But this time, I recognized the pattern immediately. This wasn't just about gambling anymore. My son's problems had escalated to something far more dangerous, and I was providing him both shelter and access to potential drug sources. I called Jennifer that night after Aaron had gone out again, breaking his promise to stay home and talk. "Did you know?" I asked without preamble. "About the drugs?" Her long pause answered before her words did. "I suspected." "It explains a lot. Why didn't you tell me? When he moved in? Would you have believed me?" Her bitter laugh held no humor. "You've always chosen him, Fanny. Always believed his version over mine. As much as I wanted to argue, I couldn't." She was right. I had consistently given Aaron the benefit of the doubt, even when evidence suggested I shouldn't. "I'm sorry," I said, the words inadequate but sincere. "I should have listened to you." "It's too late for that now," Jennifer replied flatly. "He's your problem now. Maybe you'll have better luck fixing him than I did." She hung up, leaving me with the distinct impression that Jennifer had orchestrated Aaron's temporary move to my apartment as her way of escaping a situation she could no longer handle. And I had played right into her hands. That night, I lay awake until 3 in the morning, listening for Aaron's return, rehearsing what I would say, how I would insist on rehab as a condition of staying with me. He never came home. It was the first of many nights I would spend worrying about where he was, what he was doing, and whether he was even alive. When he finally returned 2 days later, he acted as though nothing unusual had happened. When confronted, he grew defensive, then manipulative, cycling through tactics until he found one that worked. "You want me on the streets, Mom? Is that it? Your only son, homeless?" Dad would never have treated me this way. It was a low blow, using Harold against me. But it worked. I backed down, though I did insist on some basic rules. No drugs in the house, no strange friends visiting, no borrowing my car. Rules he would systematically break over the following weeks. Then came the morning I awoke, to find my television missing. And my laptop. And Harold's watch. The apartment door showed no signs of forced entry. The only other key belonged to Aaron, who had once again not come home. I called the police despite my shame and heartbreak. As I filed the report, I couldn't bring myself to explicitly accuse my son, but the officers exchanged knowing glances. They'd seen this before. Parents victimized by their adult children, usually due to addiction. "Do you have a security camera, ma'am?" one officer asked gently. I did, actually. Harold had installed a small system after a break-in several years earlier. In my distress, I hadn't thought to check it. The footage confirmed my worst fears. At 2:17 in the morning, Aaron had let 2 men into my apartment. They moved quickly, efficiently, taking only items of obvious value. Aaron directed them, pointing out what to take, even helping carry my television to their waiting van. The betrayal was complete, recorded in high definition for me to watch in horrified silence. The police officer's hand rested gently on my shoulder as the security footage ended. "Mrs. Miller, I need to ask if you want to press charges." The question hung in the air like a physical thing. Press charges against my own son? The boy I'd carried for 9 months, nursed through childhood illnesses, cheered at graduations? Can I think about it? I finally managed. "Of course. Just know that the longer we wait, the harder it will be to recover your belongings." After they left, I sat motionless at my kitchen table for hours, replaying not just the footage but the years of escalating problems. The pattern was undeniable. Aaron would cross a line, express remorse, promise change, then cross an even more serious line later. Meanwhile, I kept moving my boundaries back, accepting increasingly unacceptable behavior. My phone rang 17 times that day. Jennifer called 9 times, Aaron, 8. I answered none of them. I needed clarity, and I knew I wouldn't find it in Jennifer's accusations or Aaron's excuses. Instead, I called Susan, a friend from my teaching days whose son had struggled with addiction. She came over immediately, listened without judgment, and then said the words I needed to hear. "You didn't cause this, you can't control it, and you can't cure it. But you are enabling it, Fanny, and it's destroying both of you." She told me about a support group for families of addicts that had helped her set healthy boundaries with her own son. That very night, she drove me to my first meeting. The stories I heard there were heartbreakingly familiar. Parents and spouses caught in the same cycles of hope, disappointment, and guilt. People who had given second chances that became third, fourth, and 20th chances. People who had lost their savings, their health, and their peace trying to rescue loved ones who refused to save themselves. Loving an addict means loving them enough to stop protecting them from consequences, the group leader explained. It's the hardest kind of love there is. I returned home with new resolve and literature on addiction. For the first time in years, I felt less alone, less confused about what was happening. When Aaron finally showed up the next day, I was prepared. "The police have the security footage," I told him calmly. "I know you let those men in to rob me." He tried denial first, then minimizing. "It wasn't really robbery if I live here too. You stole from me, Aaron. You betrayed my trust in the worst possible way." "What was I supposed to do?" he shouted, suddenly furious. "I owe people money. Dangerous people. They were going to hurt me. So you decided they should hurt me instead? Your mother?" His face crumpled then, the anger giving way to tears. "I'll get your things back, Mom. I promise. I just need some time." "No, Aaron. This ends now. You need professional help. I've found a rehabilitation center with an opening next week. If you agree to go, I won't press charges." "Rehab?" He looked genuinely shocked. "I don't need rehab. I just need some money to pay these guys off, and everything will be fine. The only thing I'm offering is help getting treatment, nothing else." His eyes hardened. "You'd really send your own son to jail? After everything I've been through? I'm trying to save your life. This path you're on leads nowhere good. Save it for your teacher conferences," he spat. "I don't need your help or your guilt trips." He stormed out, slamming the door hard enough to rattle pictures on the wall. Harold and Aaron smiled at me from those frames, images from happier times that now felt like scenes from someone else's life. Aaron didn't come home that night or the next. Jennifer's calls grew increasingly frantic. "He's not answering his phone," she said when I finally picked up. "What did you say to him? Where is he?" I explained what had happened, including the theft and my ultimatum about rehab. "You should have consulted me first," she snapped. "He's still my husband. Those are still his children's lives you're affecting. Jennifer, he brought thieves into my home. He stole from me to pay gambling debts. He's using drugs. And now he's missing. How does that help anyone?" She started crying. A rarity for Jennifer. "The children keep asking when Daddy's coming home, and I don't know what to tell them." Her distress seemed genuine, making me wonder if perhaps I'd misjudged her. Maybe she did still care for Aaron beyond his financial potential. Maybe she was genuinely worried rather than simply inconvenienced by his absence. "I'll hire someone to find him," I promised. "Just to make sure he's safe." The private investigator cost $3,000 I couldn't spare, but it brought peace of mind when he reported back 3 days later. Aaron was alive, staying in a motel 30 miles away in Bedford. He'd been seen gambling at a local casino and appeared to be using drugs based on the investigator's observations. What the investigator discovered next, however, nearly broke me. "Mrs. Miller, Your son isn't alone at this motel. He's with a woman. The same woman every night. That's probably his wife, I said, though something in the detective's tone suggested otherwise. No, ma'am. I've seen photos of your daughter-in-law from your son's social media. This isn't her. This woman lives in Bedford. Name's Tracy Wallace. She's got 2 kids. Your son has been seen taking them to school, picking them up, acting. Well, acting like their father. The room seemed to tilt slightly. That's not possible. My son has 3 children with his wife in Springfield. I'm sorry to be the one telling you this, but your son appears to be living a double life. Based on interviews with neighbors, he's been involved with this woman for at least 2 years, possibly longer. He told her he's divorced. 2 years. While still married to Jennifer, while still father to my grandchildren, while taking my money under the guise of supporting his family. The shock was so profound I actually laughed, a strangled sound that held no mirth. Is there anything else I should know? The investigator hesitated. The woman, Tracy? She mentioned he's been good helping her handle money from her late husband's life insurance. About $400,000, so that was it. Aaron had found another source of funds to fuel his addictions. Another woman to manipulate. Another family to deceive. I thanked the investigator and sat in my empty apartment, truly seeing my son for perhaps the first time. Not as the little boy I'd raised or the man I'd hoped he'd become, but as the person he actually was, a manipulative addict who would sacrifice anyone's well-being for his next fix or bet, including mine, including his children's, including apparently another woman's children who had already lost their father. That night, I made the hardest phone call of my life to the police detective handling my robbery case. I'd like to press charges against my son, Aaron Miller. The next morning brought a clarity I hadn't experienced in years. For the first time, I could see how my own behavior had contributed to Aaron's decline, not by causing his addictions, but by cushioning him from their consequences. That had to end. I spent the day making phone calls. First to Jennifer, who needed to know the full truth about her husband. Her initial disbelief quickly gave way to cold fury. Another woman? Another family? While I've been struggling to feed his children? While I've been defending him to my parents? I'm so sorry, Jennifer. I had no idea. How could you not know? You've been financing his whole life. The accusation stung because it contained a grain of truth. I had enabled Aaron, though I'd never imagined the extent of his deception. I was wrong, I admitted. I thought I was helping, but I was making everything worse. That stops now. A bit late for that, isn't it? Jennifer's voice cracked slightly. What am I supposed to do now? How do I tell the kids their father has another family? It was a fair question, one I had no good answer for. We'll figure it out together. The children deserve the truth, but delivered carefully, age-appropriately. We? Since when are we a team, Fanny? You've been undermining me for years. Again, there was truth in her bitterness. I had often sided with Aaron, believed his version of events over hers. You're right. I've made terrible mistakes. But Jennifer, we both love those children. They're going to need all the stability and support we can provide. After a long pause, she sighed. I'll think about it. Right now, I need to process all this. My next call was to Pastor Williams at First Community Church, a man known for his work with addiction recovery. I explained the situation and my desire to organize an intervention. This won't be easy, he cautioned. Interventions work best when the addict still has something to lose. From what you've described, your son may feel he's already lost everything. He still has his children, I said. His real children, with Jennifer. He still has the possibility of avoiding jail time for the theft if he agrees to treatment. The pastor helped me contact an addiction counselor who specialized in interventions. Between us, we assembled a small team. Myself, Pastor Williams, the counselor, Aaron's former college roommate Scott, who had remained a friend, and surprisingly, Jennifer, who decided to participate after taking 24 hours to consider. He needs to see what he's throwing away, she said simply. We spent 3 days preparing. Each of us wrote letters expressing love for Aaron, specific concerns about his behavior, and clear consequences if he refused help. The counselor coached us on staying calm, avoiding blame, and focusing on observable behaviors rather than assumptions about his motives. We reserved a bed at a treatment facility 200 miles away, one with high success rates and experience with dual addiction to gambling and substances. Finding Aaron proved challenging. He'd left the motel in Bedford, and Tracy Wallace refused to speak with the private investigator after initially providing information. Finally, Scott managed to reach Aaron by claiming a medical emergency. "Tell him you're in town and need to see him urgently," the counselor advised. "Ask him to meet you at your mother's apartment. Don't mention anyone else will be there." The day of the intervention, we gathered at my apartment at 9 in the morning. The atmosphere was tense but hopeful. The counselor reminded us of our roles and the order in which we would speak. Pastor Williams led us in a brief prayer. At 10:15, Aaron arrived. He looked terrible. He'd lost at least 20 pounds since I'd last seen him 2 weeks earlier. His clothes were wrinkled, his eyes bloodshot, his movements jittery. He stopped short at the sight of us all waiting. "What is this?" He looked from face to face, lingering on Jennifer with visible shock. "What's going on?" "Aaron, please sit down." The counselor began gently. "Your family and friends are here because they love you, and they're concerned about you. This is an intervention? Are you kidding me?" Aaron's face contorted with anger. "Scott, you said you were sick." "I am sick, man. Sick with worry about you. We all are. This is ridiculous. I'm leaving." "Aaron, please," I stood, holding out my letter with shaking hands. "Just listen. That's all we're asking." Something in my voice must have reached him, because he paused, then dropped into a chair with poor grace. "Fine. Say whatever you need to say so I can get out of here." I read my letter first, describing my love for him, my memories of the kind boy he'd been, and my heartbreak watching him self-destruct. I detailed the specific behaviors that had damaged our relationship. The lying, the stealing, the manipulation. I finished by stating my boundary. "I love you, Aaron, but I will no longer support your addictions. If you refuse the help we're offering today, I will follow through with the criminal charges for theft. I will change the locks on my apartment. I will cut off all financial support. This is the hardest thing I've ever done, but I cannot watch you kill yourself slowly anymore." Scott went next, then Pastor Williams. Aaron listened with growing agitation, his leg bouncing, his fingers tapping restlessly against his thigh. When Jennifer began reading her letter, describing the impact of his behavior on their children, he exploded. "You have no right to judge me. None of you. You have no idea what I've been dealing with." "Then tell us," the counselor urged. "Help us understand." "It's all her fault," Aaron pointed at Jennifer. "She spent every dime I made, always wanting more. The bigger house, the private schools, the country club membership." "That's not true," Jennifer protested. "And you?" He turned to me. "Always holding money over my head, always thinking you know best. Dad would be ashamed of how you've treated me." Each accusation cut deep, not because they were true, but because they revealed how thoroughly Aaron had rewritten reality to justify his actions. In his mind, he was the victim, not the perpetrator. The counselor tried repeatedly to redirect the conversation, to focus on the help being offered rather than assigning blame. But Aaron was beyond reaching. When he learned we had already arranged a treatment facility, he became even more enraged. "You want to lock me away? I'm not crazy. I'm not an addict. I just had some bad luck." "Aaron," Pastor Williams said quietly, "addiction isn't about being crazy or bad. It's an illness that requires treatment, just like diabetes or heart disease." "Save the sermon," Aaron snapped. "I don't need to be fixed." When Scott mentioned the other woman and children in Bedford, Aaron completely lost control. He knocked over the coffee table, sending cups flying. He got in Scott's face, poking his chest hard enough to leave bruises. "You've been spying on me? Following me? What gives you the right?" "Aaron, please," I begged. "We're trying to help you." "Help me? By ambushing me? By threatening me? Some mother you are. He stormed toward the door. The counselor made one last attempt. Aaron, if you walk out now, everyone in this room will follow through on the consequences they've outlined. Is that really what you want? Aaron paused with his hand on the doorknob. For one hopeful moment, I thought we'd reached him. Then he said the words that would haunt me for months. I don't need any of you. You're dead to me. All of you. The door slammed behind him, leaving us in stunned silence. Jennifer began to cry quietly. Scott put his arm around her shoulders. Pastor Williams bowed his head. The counselor sighed deeply. I'm so sorry, she said. Unfortunately, this is not an uncommon outcome for a first intervention. The important thing now is that each of you follows through on your stated boundaries. If there are no consequences, nothing will change. After everyone left, I called the police detective handling the theft case. My son was here earlier. He's aware of the charges now, but he refused help. He might try to leave town. We'll issue the warrant today, the detective assured me. I'm sorry it came to this, Mrs. Miller. So am I whispered, looking at the family photos still displayed on my walls. So am I. The warrant was issued, but Aaron seemed to have vanished. Days passed with no word from or about him. Jennifer stopped taking my calls after initially blaming me for the failed intervention. The grandchildren's absence created a physical ache in my chest. A week later, my doorbell rang at 6 a.m. I opened it to find a disheveled Tracy Wallace, the woman from Bedford. Are you Aaron's mother? She demanded. Yes. Tracy, right? Please come in. She paced my living room like a caged animal. Did you know? About me? About my boys? Not until recently, I admitted. I'm very sorry. He told me his wife died of cancer 3 years ago, that his mother was toxic and controlling, so he kept his distance. She laughed bitterly. I believed every word. Even when money started disappearing from my account, I made excuses for him. How did you find out the truth? Your intervention friend, Scott, tracked me down. Told me everything. She stopped pacing to look at me directly. Why are there cops looking for Aaron? I explained about the theft, the warrant, and the failed intervention. Tracy nodded slowly. Makes sense now. He took $10,000 from my late husband's insurance money last week, said it was for an investment, then disappeared 3 days ago. No calls, no texts. My boys are devastated. Again. My heart broke for this woman and her children, additional victims of Aaron's selfishness. I'm so sorry, Tracy. Not your fault. We both got conned. She headed for the door, then paused. If he contacts you, tell him Daniel wet the bed again last night, crying for the second dad who abandoned him. Her voice broke slightly. Children shouldn't have to survive this much loss before their 10th birthday. After she left, I sat in my quiet apartment, truly understanding the scope of destruction my son had caused, not just to his wife and children, not just to me, but to another vulnerable family already dealing with grief. The revelation crystallized my resolve. That afternoon, I visited a locksmith and had all the locks changed on my apartment. I contacted my bank to remove Aaron's access to any of my accounts. I wrote a formal eviction notice and had it notarized, though Aaron wasn't there to receive it. These actions brought no joy, only a grim sense of finally doing what was necessary. Too late for prevention, perhaps, but not too late to stop enabling further harm. That night, my phone chimed with a text message from an unknown number. You'll regret this, Mom. Nobody crosses me and gets away with it. The threat sent a chill through me, but also confirmed I'd made the right decision. The son I loved would never threaten his mother. That boy was gone, replaced by someone I no longer recognized. Someone who needed serious help and real consequences. I forwarded the message to the detective, then tried to sleep. Alone in an apartment that suddenly felt very vulnerable, despite its new locks. The threatening text message changed everything. After reporting it to the police, I spent the next day in a blur of activity, taking steps I should have taken months earlier. First, I installed a doorbell camera and additional security cameras covering all entrances to my apartment. The technician, a kind man named Joe, worked quickly and efficiently. "You're not the first mother I've helped secure her home against a child," he told me gently. "Addiction makes people do terrible things, even to those they love." His words offered small comfort. The shame of needing protection from my own son burned deep. Next, I visited my attorney, Margaret Simmons, who had handled Harold's will years ago. I explained the entire situation, holding nothing back. "You've done the right thing changing the locks and your bank accounts," she assured me. "Now we need to make sure you're legally protected." She helped me draft a formal cease and desist letter to Aaron, clearly stating he was no longer welcome at my property and that any attempts to contact me would be considered harassment. We filed for a temporary restraining order based on his threatening text. Finally, we updated my will to establish a trust for my grandchildren that Aaron could not access under any circumstances. "What about Jennifer and the children?" I asked. "Do they have any protection from him?" "Jennifer would need to take her own legal steps," Margaret explained. "I'd suggest you encourage her to consult an attorney immediately." I tried calling Jennifer again, but my calls went straight to voicemail. In desperation, I drove to their house the following day. The sight that greeted me was shocking. A for sale sign planted in the front yard, and Jennifer supervising movers loading furniture into a truck. "Jennifer, what's happening?" I called, hurrying up the driveway. Her expression remained cold. "What does it look like?" "I'm selling the house." "But why? Where are you going?" "We can't afford the mortgage. Haven't been able to for months. The bank was about to foreclose anyway. Where will you and the children live?" She shrugged. "My parents offered their basement temporarily, but it's too small," I thought. Well, it doesn't matter what I thought. Understanding dawned. "You were planning to move in with Aaron at my apartment. He said you'd invited us, that you wanted to help while we got back on our feet." Jennifer laughed bitterly. Another lie to add to the collection. My heart sank. "Jennifer, he doesn't even live with me anymore. I changed the locks after the intervention." "Well, he certainly didn't mention that part when he suggested selling the house." She looked away, blinking rapidly. "The children are at school. I didn't want them to see all this." The full implications hit me. Jennifer had sold their home based on Aaron's empty promise, leaving herself and my grandchildren essentially homeless. And Aaron likely had no idea they were in this situation, as he'd been missing since the intervention. "Jennifer, I'm so sorry. Let me help somehow." "Haven't you helped enough?" she snapped, then immediately deflated. "I'm sorry. That wasn't fair. This isn't your fault. Where are the children going to sleep tonight?" "Motel, probably. Until I figure something out." I took a deep breath. "I have a spare bedroom. It's not much, but it would give you time to make proper arrangements." Jennifer stared at me. "Are you serious? After everything that's happened? After how I've treated you? This isn't about you or me. It's about Max, Lily, and Emma. They deserve stability while their world is falling apart." She considered for a long moment, then nodded slowly. "Just until I find something suitable, and will contribute to expenses. We can work out the details later. For now, let's focus on getting you and the children settled." As we exchanged phone numbers and made preliminary arrangements, neither of us realized how dramatically circumstances would change before Jennifer could even pack an overnight bag for her children. That evening, I received a call from the detective handling Aaron's case. "Mrs. Miller, we've located your son. He's back in town, been spotted at several locations. Officers are looking for him now. Thank you for letting me know. I'll be extra cautious. Please do. And call immediately if he contacts you." I spent that night jumping at every sound, checking and rechecking the locks, watching the security camera feeds on my tablet. Morning brought no relief, just heightened anxiety and a growing sense that something significant was about to happen. I called Jennifer. "Have you heard from Aaron?" "No. Why?" "The police say he's back in town." "Be careful, Jennifer. Keep the children close. We're at my parents' now, packing some of their things. We'll head to your place around 4. "Perfect. I'll have everything ready." After hanging up, I methodically prepared the spare bedroom, making up the pull-out sofa where Jennifer would sleep and arranging an air mattress for the children. I stocked the refrigerator with child-friendly foods and pulled out some of the toys and books I kept for their visits. The busy work helped distract me from my growing unease. I found myself checking the security feeds every few minutes, half expecting to see Aaron's face. By 3:30, I'd worked myself into such a state of anxiety that when the doorbell actually rang, I nearly jumped out of my skin. The security feed showed Jennifer and the children on my doorstep, surrounded by suitcases and duffel bags. They were early, but I was relieved to see them safely arrived. I opened the door with a welcoming smile that quickly faded as I took in the full scene before me. Jennifer stood rigidly, her face a mask of determined cheer that didn't reach her eyes. Behind her, Max held his little sister Emma's hand while Lily clutched a worn stuffed rabbit. All three children looked confused and wary. Around them were not just a few bags, but what appeared to be their entire lives packed into suitcases, boxes, and plastic bins. "Jennifer," I began carefully. "What's all this?" "Our things," she answered brightly, too brightly. "Everything we could fit in the car anyway. The rest is in storage. I thought this was temporary, just until you found a place." "It is. Absolutely. Just might take a little longer than I initially thought." The children's faces showed varying degrees of confusion. Max, at 10, clearly understood more than his sisters. His expression was a mixture of embarrassment and resentment. 8-year-old Lily kept looking back toward the parking lot, perhaps expecting her father to appear. 5-year-old Emma simply looked tired and overwhelmed. I stepped aside to let them in, my mind racing. This was clearly not the overnight arrangement we'd discussed. Jennifer had brought everything, suggesting she expected a much longer stay. She'd sold their house with no backup plan except Aaron's empty promise about my apartment. Once the children were settled in the living room with snacks and the television, Jennifer and I moved to the kitchen for a private conversation. "Jennifer, what's really going on here?" She deflated, the false cheer vanishing. "The house sale closes next week. I have nowhere else to go. My parents' place is too small, and rental applications require income verification I can't provide since I haven't worked in 7 years. Aaron handled everything. You should have told me the full situation. Would you have still offered to help?" I sighed. "Of course. They're my grandchildren. But Jennifer, my apartment barely has room for all of you. This can't be a long-term solution." "I know that," she snapped, then took a deep breath. "I know. I'm trying to get a job. I've applied everywhere. Once I have steady income, we can find our own place." The desperation in her eyes moved me. Despite our complicated history, she was a mother trying to protect her children in an impossible situation. "All right," I said finally. "You can stay until you get on your feet. But we need clear boundaries and a concrete plan moving forward." Relief washed over her face. "Thank you, Fanny. The children and I won't be a burden. I promise." We spent the next hour bringing in their belongings and trying to find space for everything in my modest apartment. The children slowly relaxed, especially when I produced cookies and milk. By dinner time, we'd established a tentative peace, though uncertainty hung heavy in the air. After the children went to bed, exhausted from the day's upheaval, Jennifer and I sat at the kitchen table with cups of tea. "Have you told them?" I asked quietly. "About their father?" She shook her head. "Not everything. Just that he and I are having problems and need time apart. They know we sold the house because we couldn't afford it anymore. They deserve the truth, Jennifer. An age-appropriate version, at least. I know, I keep hoping he'll come to his senses. Get help, be the father they remember, and if he doesn't," she stared into her tea, "then I'll tell them. When I'm stronger. When we have some stability." I reached across the table and squeezed her hand. For the first time in our complicated relationship, I felt we truly understood each other. Both of us had been manipulated by Aaron. Both of us had made excuses for him far too long. Both of us loved those 3 children sleeping in the next room more than anything. We'll get through this, I promised, one day at a time. Neither of us had any idea how dramatically that promise would be tested the very next morning. The doorbell rang at 9:15 the following morning. Jennifer and I were in the kitchen preparing breakfast while the children watched cartoons in the living room. We exchanged puzzled glances. I wasn't expecting anyone, and Jennifer had mentioned no plans. I checked the security camera feed on my tablet and felt my blood run cold. Jennifer stood on my doorstep, looking impatient and determined, surrounded by luggage. The Jennifer, who was standing beside me, peered over my shoulder and gasped, "Oh my God, he told me to sell the house. He said we were moving in with you. Stay here with the children," I instructed, suddenly very calm. "Don't come out until I call you." I took a deep breath and opened the door. Jennifer's expression cycled rapidly from expectation to confusion as she took in my appearance. "Fanny? I thought Aaron would be here." Her eyes drifted to the suitcases and boxes around her. "We sold our house. Aaron said you invited us to stay while we figured things out." "Jennifer," I began carefully, "when did you last speak with Aaron?" 3 days ago. He called from your apartment. Said you'd offered to let us stay after the house sold." Her face began to pale. "He's not here, is he?" "No, Jennifer. I haven't seen Aaron in weeks. Not since the intervention. But he said, he promised we'd have a place to stay. The movers are bringing our furniture to storage today. We have nowhere to go." Her voice rose in pitch, edged with panic. That's when I delivered the words that would forever change our family's trajectory. "He didn't tell you? I changed the locks yesterday, and he doesn't live here anymore. He hasn't for weeks." Jennifer's face drained of all color as the implications sank in. She'd sold their family home based on a promise from a man who hadn't even had access to my apartment for weeks. Her legs seemed to give way slightly as she leaned against the doorframe. "Where are the children?" I asked gently. "School bus," she whispered. "They'll be home at 3, expecting to come here." Before I could respond, the Jennifer who had spent the night in my apartment appeared behind me, unable to contain her curiosity any longer. The two women stared at each other in absolute shock. "Who are you?" they asked simultaneously. The absurdity of the situation might have been comical under different circumstances. Two Jennifers, both deceived by the same man, both homeless due to his empty promises, both mothers of his children. "I'm Jennifer Miller," said the one at the door, "Aaron's wife." "So am I," replied the one behind me. Understanding dawned simultaneously. "Tracy?" asked the first Jennifer. "Jennifer?" responded the second, who I now realized must be Tracy Wallace, the woman from Bedford. Tracy turned to me, betrayal fresh in her eyes. "You knew? You knew she was coming here too?" "No. I had no idea Aaron had told either of you to come here. He has no right to invite anyone to my home." The three of us stood frozen in this tableau of confusion when a car screeched into the parking lot. Aaron emerged, moving quickly toward the building. From my doorway, I could see his expression shift from determination to horror as he registered both women standing with me. He froze mid-stride, then turned to flee. But at that exact moment, 2 police cruisers pulled in, blocking his escape. 2 officers emerged, approaching Aaron with purpose. "Aaron Miller?" one called. "We have a warrant for your arrest." As the officers handcuffed my son in full view of both women he had deceived, I delivered the final sentence that truly finished them both off completely. "I reported Aaron to the police for theft, and they've had a warrant for his arrest since the failed intervention. I suspect he came here hoping to get money from me by using you both and your children as emotional leverage." Both women turned to stare at me, then back at Aaron being placed in the police cruiser, then back to each other. Tracy began to laugh, a slightly hysterical sound that held no joy. Jennifer simply sank down onto one of her suitcases, burying her face in her hands. "I sold my house," Jennifer whispered. "Everything we had. I cleaned out my savings to come here," Tracy added. "Pulled my boys out of school." The weight of what Aaron had done to these women and their children settled over us like a physical burden. In his desperation for money to feed his addictions, he had destroyed 2 families, leaving 2 mothers and 5 children, essentially homeless. I made a decision in that moment that would change all our lives. "Come inside, both of you," I said. "The children shouldn't see this. We'll figure something out together." They followed me into my small apartment, these two strangers united by devastating common ground. As the police car carrying my son pulled away, I closed the door on one chapter of our lives and opened another, not yet knowing where it would lead, only that it couldn't possibly be worse than where we'd been. That first day with both Jennifer and Tracy in my apartment was surreal. After the initial shock wore off, anger set in. The two women vacillated between fury at Aaron and suspicion of each other, each wondering if the other had somehow known about the deception. "I had no idea he was still married," Tracy insisted, pacing my living room. "He told me his wife died of cancer 3 years ago." "Well, I'm very much alive," Jennifer replied bitterly. "Though our marriage has been on life support for years." I made countless phone calls that day, to the school to explain why Tracy's children wouldn't be arriving, to a nearby extended stay hotel to secure temporary accommodations for Tracy and her sons, to my attorney to understand the legal implications for both women. By evening, we had crafted a temporary plan. Tracy would stay at the hotel while Jennifer and my grandchildren remained with me. "I can't believe I'm staying in the same city," Tracy said as she prepared to leave for the hotel. "I should take my boys and run as far from Aaron Miller as possible." "Running won't solve the financial problems," I pointed out gently. "You both need legal recourse. And the children need stability," Jennifer added, surprising me with her concern for Tracy's boys. The next few weeks passed in a blur of activity. Aaron remained in jail, unable to make bail, facing charges of theft and fraud. My attorney connected both Jennifer and Tracy with family law specialists who helped them understand their options. We discovered that Aaron had legally married Tracy 2 years earlier, committing bigamy, adding another charge to his growing list of crimes. Most painful was helping both sets of children understand what was happening. Jennifer's children knew their father. Tracy's had only known him as Uncle Aaron until recently, when he'd begun presenting himself as a father figure. All 5 children felt abandoned and confused. "Why did Daddy lie to everyone?" Max asked one evening, his young face serious beyond his years. "Your father is sick," I explained carefully. "He has addictions that make him do things he wouldn't normally do." "Can't the doctors fix him?" Lily wondered. "Only if he wants to be fixed, sweetheart. And right now, he doesn't think he needs help." These conversations broke my heart, but I refused to lie to them or offer false hope. The children deserved honest, age-appropriate explanations of the chaos affecting their lives. 1 month after Aaron's arrest, we faced a major decision. The extended stay hotel was becoming too expensive for Tracy, and my apartment was too crowded for Jennifer and 3 children long-term. Something had to change. "I've been thinking," I said one evening when both women were at my apartment discussing their situations. "This building has a 3-bedroom unit available next month. It's on the 1st floor, has a small yard area. If we pooled our resources..." "You want us to live together?" Jennifer looked skeptical. "We barely know each other." "We know the most important thing," Tracy replied thoughtfully. "We both made the same mistake with the same man. And we both have children who need stability." "It would be temporary," I assured them. "Just until you both get back on your feet." The arrangement was unconventional but practical. The larger apartment would give the children proper bedrooms. The women could share childcare responsibilities, allowing each time to find employment. I would help with rent initially, but they would gradually take over as their situations improved. To my surprise, they agreed. Even more surprisingly, the arrangement worked. The children, after initial awkwardness, became friends. Max took on a protective role with Tracy's sons, Daniel and Michael, while the younger children simply enjoyed having more playmates. Jennifer found work as an administrative assistant at a local accounting firm, using skills from before her marriage. Tracy, who had been a dental hygienist, secured a position at a practice 3 miles from the apartment. They created elaborate schedules for childcare, cooking, and household responsibilities. I visited daily, often keeping the children while both women worked. These months revealed a Jennifer I'd never known before. Resilient, hardworking, and fiercely protective not just of her own children but of Tracy's boys as well. The entitled, materialistic woman I'd judged so harshly was transforming before my eyes into someone I genuinely respected. 4 months after Aaron's arrest, he accepted a plea deal. 18 months in prison followed by mandatory rehabilitation and 5 years probation. Both women attended the sentencing hearing, not for reconciliation but for closure. "Do you have anything to say to the defendant before sentencing?" the judge asked them. Jennifer stood first. "Aaron was once someone I loved deeply. He's the father of my children. But his addictions and lies nearly destroyed us all. I hope he finds the help he needs. Not for my sake, but for our children who deserve a father who can be present and honest." Tracy spoke next. "My children lost their father to cancer 3 years ago. Then Aaron came into our lives, offering stability and love. That was all a lie. I don't wish him harm, but I will never allow him near my children again." Their dignity in that courtroom moved me to tears. These women, who had every right to rage and condemn, chose instead to speak truth with composure and even compassion. Aaron looked small and defeated as he was led away. He didn't meet any of our eyes, not even mine. I felt a mother's grief, but also a strange relief. For the first time in years, I knew exactly where my son was, and I knew he couldn't hurt anyone else while he was there. Life settled into new patterns. By the 1-year anniversary of Aaron's arrest, both women were financially independent. They decided to continue their unconventional living arrangement, finding strength in their shared experience and practical support in their partnership. I remained deeply involved in all 5 children's lives, a grandmother figure to Tracy's boys as well as my biological grandchildren. The children thrived with the stability and consistency our unusual family provided. Aaron wrote letters from prison, first demanding, then pleading, finally reflecting. I answered some, encouraging his participation in recovery programs. Jennifer allowed supervised letters to their children. Tracy maintained firm boundaries, refusing all contact. When Aaron completed his prison sentence and entered rehabilitation, we all held our breath, unsure what this would mean for our carefully constructed new normal. Would he demand to return? Would he threaten our stability? Instead, Aaron surprised us all by respecting the boundaries we'd established. He attended his recovery meetings, secured a job through a program for former inmates, and moved into a halfway house across town. His contacts with the children remained structured and supervised. He made no demands and offered no empty promises. 18 months after his release, we gathered in my apartment for a frank family discussion. Aaron had requested increased contact with his children, having demonstrated consistent sobriety and responsibility. "I think we should consider it," Jennifer said, shocking me. "The children need their father, if he can truly be present for them now." "Are you sure?" I asked. "After everything?" "I'm not suggesting reconciliation," she clarified. "But people can change, Fanny. I've changed. You've changed. Maybe Aaron has too." Tracy remained more cautious. "My boys have been through enough. They're finally feeling secure." "And that's perfectly valid," Jennifer assured her. "We each need to make the best decisions for our own children." The maturity and wisdom in their approach humbled me. These women had endured betrayal that would have broken many. Yet here they were, navigating complex family dynamics with thoughtfulness and grace. Aaron's reintegration into his children's lives happened gradually, with professional support and clear boundaries. There were setbacks and difficult conversations, but also moments of genuine connection and healing. He accepted that his relationship with Jennifer was permanently over and respected Tracy's decision to keep her sons separate from him. 3 years after that fateful day when 2 Jennifers appeared at my door, our unconventional family gathered to celebrate a milestone. Jennifer had completed her degree in accounting, achieved through night classes and determined persistence. Tracy had been promoted to office manager at her dental practice. The children were thriving in school and activities, and I had finally found peace with my role in all that had happened. As I looked around at these people who had become my extended family through the most painful circumstances imaginable, I felt a profound gratitude. We had all been broken by addiction and deception, but we had refused to remain shattered. "I want to make a toast," I said, raising my glass of sparkling cider. "To new beginnings built from painful endings, to the family we choose rather than the one we're born into. And most of all, to the courage it takes to set boundaries with those we love, when those boundaries are the only path to healing." We clinked glasses amid smiles and a few tears. Later, as the children played a board game and the women chatted in the kitchen, I stepped outside for a moment of quiet reflection. The evening air was cool against my face as I contemplated the journey that had brought us here. I had lost my son to addiction, but found my strength in standing firm. I had feared losing my grandchildren, but gained an expanded family instead. I had dreaded confrontation, only to discover that the hardest conversations often lead to the most meaningful growth. The most difficult lesson had been learning the difference between helping and enabling, between supporting and rescuing. True love sometimes means allowing natural consequences to unfold, even when those consequences break your heart. Sometimes the most loving action is setting a boundary and holding it firmly. As I rejoined the gathering inside, Max caught my eye and smiled. A smile so like his father's before addiction had claimed him. In that smile, I saw hope for a new generation that might break the cycles we had struggled within. These children had witnessed both the devastating consequences of addiction and the transformative power of resilience. They had seen adults fail them, then find the courage to rebuild. What powerful lessons to carry forward. The path ahead would never be simple. Aaron's recovery would always require vigilance. The children would continue processing their complex feelings about their father. Jennifer and Tracy would face new challenges as their children grew and their careers evolved. And I would continue aging, navigating my role in this unorthodox family structure. But we would face it together. This family forged in fire rather than blood. We had learned that sometimes you must close a door firmly, change the locks, and speak hard truths to make space for something healthier to grow. Sometimes the sentence that finishes someone off completely is the very one that ultimately saves them, by ending the cycles of enabling and denial that feed destruction. The lesson cost us all dearly. But as I looked at the thriving family around me, I knew without doubt that it had been worth it. Have you ever had to set a difficult boundary with someone you love? It takes tremendous courage to stand firm when we see someone heading down a destructive path, especially when that person is family. I'd love to hear your experiences in the comments. Like this story if it resonated with you, subscribe for more real-life journeys, and share with someone who might need encouragement to set healthy boundaries in their own life. Thank you for joining me for this deeply personal story, and I wish you the strength to make the hard choices that lead to healing in your own relationships.